things you have to take into consideration. And we all know that the year is also ending. So ideally, we should be planning for next year as an individual. What are some of the things you want to achieve? As a business owner, what are you going to do? As a manager, how are you going to achieve your 2022 targets? So this is the main aim for today's session. Let's quickly go through the program lineup. So we allow 5 minutes for login, just 5 minutes for introduction. Then we go straight into the discussions. Then we'll allow 5 minutes for questions and answers. Then at 6:50 p.m., we are done after the closing remarks. So for today, we have a resource person who will be taking us through our topic, budgeting as an effective management tool. And today I have no other person than Desmond Clue. So a brief history about Desmond. Desmond has over 8 years banking experience, specializing in business development and marketing in medium skills and micro enterprises. He has been in charge of branch budgeting and serves as deputy in charge of budget implementation, monitoring and delivering committee. Desmond has an HND in accounting, a BSc in accounting, and an MBA in strategy and corporate restructuring with specialization in turnaround and financial strategy. Desmond, welcome to the Finance Jam session. Hello, Desmond, welcome. Before Desmond comes in, normally you know how we start our session. We start with notable quotes as part of the daily tips that we share. And you could see this picture here. Typically, this describes most of how our tables or our decks looks like. We have our calculator ready. We have our lens. We just want to see what is going into your income. We want to go see what is going into your expenses. We do all this because we admit that we have limited resources, but a lot of wants that we want to do. So before he comes in, I'll start with this quote that we did. I'll start with this. To every payment, a time. You all understand that we have a lot of payments to make, but through budgeting, we are able to assign a particular period or time for that payment to be done. Let's keep this in mind as we go through today's presentation. At this stage, I will hand over to our speaker, Desmond. Hello, Desmond. Welcome to the Finance Jam session. If you could hear me, you could take over from here.
Hello, Jimmy. I think Desmond is off the call, so maybe you can wait for a while for him to rejoin.
Okay, thanks. So we'll start the discussions. Then when Desmond joins, we continue from there. So we'll start. There's a lot of people saying, what is the budget? What is budgeting? Some people sometimes interchange the terms, but they will learn what budget is, how different is it from budget, and how we can implement it as a tool. When we say a budget, it's a comprehensive formal plan that estimates your probable expenditure and income for an organization or an individual over a specific period. So let me just break it down. One thing we must know is it is a formal plan. You can have plans in your head. I want to spend this, I want to spend this, but once you put it down, it becomes a budget. So first, it is a plan which has been formalized. Then it should be comprehensive. Why do we say it's comprehensive? Because it includes both your revenue or your income as well as your expenses. And in the budget, everything contains everything. So even in your house, if you want to go and buy groceries, you list them down. I'll buy this, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. Then you assign budget to it. Money, this is how much I'm going to spend. Then this is your income. So you agree with me that it's comprehensive. And mostly, one thing we must know is a budget is an estimate. because normally the period that you are looking at is ahead. It's not like it's past, no. So budget is normally periodical, and you need to. So normally for most individuals and organizations, we look at a period of, let's say, 1 year, but it's flexible. You can do your budget for December. We all know December is here, a lot of shopping ongoing. But one thing we must bear in mind is, what is your December budget? Please, let's keep that question. By the time we end this call, you all share with me what your budget is like. You might also be planning a program, lots of wedding happening, a lot of graduation, a lot of parties. But one thing you must bear in mind is, do I have a comprehensive plan? Do I have an estimate expenditure? And for which period am I looking at? Then we go to budgeting. So for you to get a budget, you need to go through a certain process. And that process is what we call what? The budgeting, but the budgeting. So the overall process is called budgeting, and the output is what we call what? A budget. We'll delve further, and as we go, we'll get to know what are some of the things that we need to do when we are preparing a budget. Now let's start. We say budget. Okay, I also have a budget. I have a budget of 10,000. I have a budget of 2,000. I'm going to spend 1,000. Does it qualify to be called a budget? These are the few things or characteristics that we need to look at. In preparing a budget, it needs to be realistic. It's an estimate, but it helps if you're a bit realistic. So as an individual, December, I'm going to do my Christmas shopping. My budget is 2,000. Whilst your income is 1,005, you ask yourself how realistic it is. If you don't put in realistic figures, if you don't put in realistic stuff, it puts a lot of pressure, or it shows away the effectiveness of the budget. So in effect, you start and you realize that, wow, the budget is not useful, then we are forced to take it away. So in as much as we are realistic, in as much as we are doing a budget, let us try and be realistic. So for an entrepreneur, you are looking at your sales in December, you know your pattern. My pattern. So that's why it's very useful if you're able to look at your trends, or what has your historical data been like. It's very helpful. That's why we encourage that in as much as we can, even as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, try and put down data, because this is something that will help you in future. So in budgeting, you will have to refer to your trend, your historical data. So on a monthly basis, the family is spending 200 cedis on groceries, 200 cedis on, let's say, soap or other things that we use at home. So that gives you a fair idea of what I should put there. Then, like we said, you need to put an estimate. So a budget should be what? Quantifiable. So I'm going to spend this. So like what our traditional women do, or our mothers used to do as they are going to the market, you see them listed. I'll buy pepper, tomatoes. They list it and they try to put some amount there. So pepper 5 cedis, tomatoes 10 cedis. Yes, it helps, because in the end, you are going to match your expenses against your income. Then you'll be able to see that whether there's going to be a deficit or there's going to be a surplus. If you don't, you just list it, then it becomes like a list, a to-do list. A plan should be in our budget. And like we said, it should be historical. You need to take into consideration what has happened, how am I going to do it. Then one thing you must know is a budget should be for a period. So I'm doing this budget for those of us, like I'm doing my budget for this month of November. I'm doing my budget for December. I'm doing my budget for a full year. It's flexible. Look at what will work for you. You can even do your daily budget. If it is weekly budget you want to do, it helps. It is not cast in stone. Somebody can say that I'm doing a 5-year budget. I'm doing a 10-year budget. It all depends on what will work for you. And one thing we must also know is that a budget should be inclusive. It should include anything. So remember one of the tips that I shared. Yeah. Hello, Desmond. Hello, Desmond. So a budget should be inclusive. It should include everything. So you start with, what are some of my expenses, probable expenses that you make? What are some of my probable income that I'm going to get? once you try to restrict yourself, you might lose sight of certain vital expenses which might pop up. So in as much as possible, when you are doing your budget, should be inclusive. And here in the inclusiveness, you can look at who are your key stakeholders. So as a wife, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, you ask yourself, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, I manage my own business. Who are my workers? You could be one or two. Who are my customers? Okay, what's the plan for December? Are you going to stock more than your regular one? It gives you a fair idea. Okay, I'm preparing for Christmas. Is there something that my wife needs? Is there something that my kids also needs? You need to include everything. It helps you to come up with a very good output, which will also help you in getting the budgeting process right. Then one thing we must know is a budget should be standardized. This is how I want my budget to be. So for instance, I have a tool, a Finance Gem budgeting tool. It's simple, anyone can use it. So I list my expenses, I list my income, then I try to match them and see how I can do it. So once you standardize it, it makes it like a formal plan. Like we initially said, it's a formal plan that is comprehensive. Then one thing you must know is once a budget is done, you just don't leave it there to lie. You have to go back to frequently evaluate it. So you might have started your Christmas budget, you have your long list, what we are going to do, but certain things changes. Your income is not coming as you want. Some other expenses might have come in. You always have to go back and evaluate it. There are certain expenses that, as per the nature, and let's say, for instance, you plan to spend fuel of 150 Ghana cedi a week. In the course of the week or the month, fuel prices are increased. What happened? Obviously, you are going to spend more than the 150. You need to go back and evaluate it. Then it will make your budgeting process an effective tool in your management. So now we go to what we call the budgeting cycle. We all know that before you arrive at the budget, you need to go to the budgeting process. So now this is what we are going to practically look at. You need to do consultation, a lot of preparation. You need to look at your data. So even as a business, it's good that you keep data and manage it as well. Desmond, if you are back, you could take it out from here. Hello, Desmond.
Hello, Desmond, you are muted.
So when we
unmute and speak. Desmond, you are muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Great.
Yes, Desmond, we can hear you now. You can
Okay,
take it
yeah,
up
I said
from
thank
here.
you very much, Jemima, for the opportunity. And then sorry for the network challenges that actually interrupted me for actually starting there. But nevertheless, now I have the platform to start from where you ended. So budgets, like any other like a human being, go through phases. Like you will be giving birth to, you grow, you reach your adolescent age. I mean, finally you die and all that. A typical budget must go through those phases. So the first phase a budget must go through is consultation. I believe in consultation. Consultation is all about trying to decentralize the whole budgeting process. For example, where I work, a memo normally comes from the head office that, okay, these are the guidelines. We want to achieve a profitability of so and so. We want to achieve a deposit level of so and so. So you are guided by that. Then at the branch level, what you ought to do is to have a budget discussion for which everybody make an input. So a budget is then prepared from the bottom. Then this data is submitted to management for consideration. So that is the first step. So all these consultation, input, and then the rest make the budget to be accepted to all. so that at the end of the day, when it comes to budget implementation, it becomes easier because it's an input from all of us. So that is first phase of budgeting. Then the budget that is approved, after that, the budget is then approved. The raw data which is sent to management is approved based on the strategic direction that the company wants to, attain. For example, if the company decide that I want to achieve a modest gain of say 10%, then looking at all that had been received from the consultative process, then they will look at it whether it fits into the strategic direction of the company or the business. If it does, then they go ahead and approve it. So after the approval stage, then it goes to what we call the implementation and then the execution process. At this particular point, the managing director plays a very significant role here because he normally chairs the budget implementation committee. He will directly look at how the revenue will perform at the end of the period. Then the finance and strategy will also look at tracking the expenses so that they do not go overboard. Because, mind you, every single business is in for a profit. And with profit, and then with the limited resources that you have, you can only achieve that when you track and you rationalize your expenditure. So that these are the processes that a budget goes through before finally is implemented. Like I said, the budget needs serious consultation. Today, you and I are aware of the fact that a 2022 budget has been thrown out. And on the airwave, you could hear that there was no serious consultation. I believe if consultation is done enough, the budget would have been approved. So anytime we are budgeting, be it individual, business, or government, we need to do serious consultation. For example, individual couples, you must involve your kids, you must involve your wife, you have to involve your husband, and any other stakeholder that you feel their actions and inactions will affect or have a repercussion on your estimate. They need to be consulted. I believe that after the consultation, you will get everybody working to achieve this particular budget. Mind you, budget has some element to achieve. For example, participating by individuals, it helps in planning, controlling, and decision making. And these are all managerial tools. So from here, I want to go and then look at the various steps that we find in budgeting. Steps. When we want to budget, what steps should we follow? And we have identified 6 major steps that we follow when you are budgeting so that it becomes all-inclusive, so that at the end of the day, nobody will complain that he is not aware and the participating in the budget implementation becomes a problem. So the first one is that if you are dealing with individual budgets, you have to be very sure of, or you have to do what we call self-introspection. Assess yourself properly, assess your finances. The estimate that I am making in terms of revenue, realistically, will I be able to achieve that? If you are able to achieve, then it is fair enough, because you need to be very realistic about the revenue because it's very essential. Then having done this, then you have to now also look at your expenditure that you are expecting to, expend during the period in question. Some of the tools that you have to use, or some of the scientific tools that you can use to assess yourself in respect of both expenditure and revenue, is strength. For example, last year, we all know that Government say they don't have money. So those people who are working in government sector had 4% increment in salary. So next year, I mean, COVID is still with us. So if we are making projection in, 2022, you should be very conservative, because you might not see the 10% and then the rest increase in the budget, increase in the revenue. So the expenditure must equally be rationalized in order to match. If you do not match your expenditure with the revenue, you are likely to have a gap. And that gap, if you are lacking and is surplus, then it means that that is a good budget for you. But when you are having a deficit, then it means that the gap or the deficit that need to be financed by something. Probably the only way out is to go in for a loan to close the gap, which is, I mean, the quickest and then the most simple thing which is being done to actually finance the gap. Then having determined the expenditure and then the revenue, then you can now set your goals that, yes, looking at my expenditure expectation and the revenue expectation, I can only achieve this particular goal at the end of the period. Then you create a plan, a formal plan for yourself. And after the formal plan, then I will speak to the entrepreneurs. Many SMEs that I know, they do not pay themselves. Many of them, they do not pay yourself. Whatever that comes in, especially the cash, they feel that is their profit. No, I have always advised my SME customers that, hey, assess yourself. Assuming you are working for somebody else, how much do you think you will earn? So that becomes your realistic earning. So at the end of the month, pay that to yourself. Otherwise, you are likely to underpay yourself or overly pay yourself. Then finally, you must continuously be tracking. And tracking or monitoring or evaluation and control is a major aspect of budgeting. So you need to track the process in order to know whether you are on track or off track. And if there are other remedial actions you have to take in order to be on track, you have to quickly take that decision. Then I think the time is actually going very fast. So let me just conclude and then deal with some bottlenecks that come with budgeting. We all know that budgeting rely heavily on past records. And in fact, past records sometimes cannot be ideal situations or might not be ideal figures that we use in projecting our future. So if the past record is error reading, the problem is that the budget that is drawn itself become defective. Then the second problem that we could face with budgeting is the fact that because budgets come with goal setting, as a worker, you find it very difficult to innovate because there is a clear guidance as to what you should do, what expenditure you should do, and what revenue you should be looking at it, or which areas that you have to be looking at. So at the end of the day, you realize that you are actually packed in a very uncomfortable corner. No innovation. So those are some of the bottlenecks that budget comes with. But at the end of the day, budgeting tries to perform certain serious role in business management. And in management principle, we are talking about planning, controlling, organizing, motivation, and then the rest. So at the end of the day, we should know that whether we are able to achieve all these managerial principles, and indeed, whether they are contributing to the reasons for which the business enterprise is set up. So I have some functions that budgeting plays that I want to share with you briefly. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Hello?
That's
Yeah,
what we
you are
can
over
hear.
the plane.
Okay, I think my line is breaking, so
Okay.
okay, so normally budget enhance serious perspective of management, because practically when budgeting process is decentralized, you will see that there will be several perspectives from employees, stakeholders, and then the rest. So a management will come out with a conservative budget that, well, we don't want to, go all out. But maybe probably because it is decentralized, some units will bring out some perspective, and that will end up enhancing management perspective when it comes to budgeting. Then number two, budgeting helps to flag certain errors, because you are making projection for revenues, projection for expenditure, and then trying to see whether there are gaps in order to fill it. Any error which is expected, budgeting process makes resources available in order to deal with that error, so that those errors will not actually throw the budget off gear. Then what budgeting does again is that it coordinates, which is a major function of any management process. It coordinates the various aspects because the budget has been decentralized. So every single unit is talking. It coordinates the activities right from the top to the down, whether vertical or horizontal. Budgets actually coordinate all of them, so that at the end of the day, every single soul in the organization knows that there is something to achieve. That is the deliverable set out by management, and it is there every day when you come. It is looking at looking at you, staring at you. So those are the real function that budgeting plays. Then budgeting again evaluate performance. Like I said, the shorter the budgeting period, the more control measures. Because without that, when you are going off track, you wouldn't know. So continuous evaluation of performance, comparing what you have budgeted for and what you are actually getting. If there are variances and those variances are too, and the gap are too wide, then it means that you have problem and you have to quickly evaluate your performance. So on this note, let me just conclude by saying that budgeting is a very good tool for businesses, individuals. You can use it in your homes. It tracks your expenses, and it makes maximum use of your resources. And mind you, resources are limited, and you have to actually make good returns of those resources. So without budget, it's more like you are on a high sea without a direction, gestationing from one ocean to another. At the end of the day, you realize that maybe some wild animals will just throw you somewhere. So on this note, I want to pause here so that the host would come out with the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Desmond. Brief and concise. Kindly drop your messages or your questions in the chat box. We will also allow, if you want to speak, you can gently raise your hand and we'll call you to answer. Desmond, before we go to the chat, I have some questions that I had received prior to this.
Okay.
The first one is, My expenses, this is an individual.
Okay.
My expenses are more than my income, so I'm scared to budget. Any advice for me?
Yes. First of all, like I said, you have to be the expenses that he is saying that are more. Are they rational expenses? If they are expenses that you cannot do anything about, it means that they are rational expenses. Then it means that you have to look at the revenue side. I think let me just share this practical example. One, I used to give loan to some customers. They are about 3. They already are on loans, and every single month you see that these people will be coming for salary advance. So anytime there is a delay in this salary advance, then these people have a like, oh Charlie, please, can you give me money too? And I say, no, I think I can help you. What is your actual revenue? What is your actual expenses? And I mean, truthfully, they put it down, and I realized that there is nothing that they can do about the expenditure. But the problem is that they have to do something about the revenue side in order to, turn the situations around. So I strategically asked them, and I feel, well, I mean, 2 of them, they are teachers, and then 1 a nurse. And I advised that, well, you need to actually look for another revenue stream. So I suggested a revenue stream to the guy. We gave him a loan to buy an Uber, because a teacher by 1:30 he is done. So after 2 o'clock, he basically goes home to go and then sleep. Meanwhile, he can actually work within from 2 to 10. And as we speak now, the guy has 2 cars actually doing the Uber for him. I can't see the last time that he came to touch even his salary, because he says he told me that his earnings is okay for him. So those are some of the things that you can use to actually change your situation. So if one revenue stream is not able to actually cater for your rationalized expenditure, then it means that you have to look at something. And the second one, and next, I have to advise him that yes, you don't have an additional income. And he say yes. Can you do locum? Locum, like I said, is a medical terminology that most people, on the medical profession actually go and then work after their normal working hours. He said no, because it comes with a lot of stress. And I said, okay, then bring 3,000 on board so that I will tell you what to do. And at the end of the day, he makes an additional 2,000 Ghana cedis. And you could see that 2,000 per month multiplied by 12 months is about 24,000. That actually changed the dynamics. So the questionnaire, I think maybe when we close the session, we can speak so that we know actually whether the expenditure that you are doing is a rational expenditure. If not, then those that we have to flag out, and you have to be very disciplined. You have to be very disciplined. Personally, my wife will tell you she is online. I have to forfeit doing certain things that will not actually make. She will fight me, but I know that I'll have a particular goal to achieve. So I will pursue it with all the vigor and with all the resources that I have, because at the end of the day, I set up a particular goal and I must achieve it regardless. If it is my expenditure that I feel I have to flag it. If it's the revenue side, I have to look in order to improve it to enjoy those to utilize those expenses. I will do it.
Thanks, Desmond. Yes, you've touched on one of the points, looking at our streams of income, because in budgeting is very key. And sometimes until you start budgeting, you don't realize that there's an issue. Like you said, if there's a deficit, you have to find ways of meeting your budget. And that's where sometimes most entrepreneurs come out with ideas on what business I can do, what's next, and what I can also do. Okay, so the next question is, the person feels that budgeting is for accountants, not for everyone. What do you have to say about this?
Budgeting, if you look at the historical perspective of budgeting, budgeting actually started from UK 1760s, and it was actually used to actually cure expenditure by governments of the British. But today, every single individual use budget. Why? Because resources are limited in supply. I believe that if you are paid very well, you can decide to live any life at all. But your pay cannot take you home, and therefore it means that you have to live within your means. And you cannot live within your means if you don't plan. And mind you, budget is a plan, it's a financial plan for a period. So it is good for individual, it's good for businesses, it's good for nations, it's good for non-governmental organizations in order to make good meaning out of scarce resources. So that assertion is not correct. The assertion is that it is good for everybody. And I believe by the end of the discussion, everybody must start doing serious budgeting. Let us not be buying things because it was advertised. I don't do that. I personally don't do that. Unless, of course, you want to, increase your revenue stream. So when you increase your revenue stream, then it means that there will be a lot of room for you to make expenditure. But so long as you cannot increase your revenue, you have to rationalize your expenditure. Do not spend on things that you do not need.
I'm passing the phone.
So we've lost it. We had one hand up. We've lost it. Okay. So that's one thing very much. Like you said, budgeting is a good tool. So far as you are doing any form of management, even at home is home management, even at church is church management, wherever you find yourself, it's a tool that you can use, not necessarily for accountants as well. Okay, so back to the last question I have here that I had received. The person says, my income is too small to start budgeting. So your comment on it?
Well, no income is too small. Like I said, budget comes, budget actually comes to cure how to make maximum use of your little resources. And you have to look at your salary as your little financial resources. So how do you make best, out of the little resources that you are actually earning? So if you are earning little and you want to spend more, then look for another revenue stream. See, let me share a particular, my practical example with you. In 2014, 2015, 2016, I was actually working with the bank, but I set out certain targets myself that I have to marry, I have to go to school, I have to do other things. But when I look at how much that comes to me at the end of the period, I realized that I cannot finance that lifestyle. So what I did was to start certain things. Anybody that knows me very well in the office will tell you that when it is 1 o'clock, you will not see Desmond in the office, because I will go to the taxi rank and be taking my money because I have some investment there. I buy fuel for them. So at the end of the day, the 10 cedis that I make, every 2 weeks, you will see me in my jalabia around 1 a.m. What am I waiting for? I was waiting for shrimps or something from Ivory Coast to supply to some client so that I can make some return on it. So those are some of the things that you will do in order to improve your revenue stream. But if you say your income is too small to to budget, you are making a very big mistake. That is where you have to actually do serious introspection, ask people that can help you, because sometimes you have to go and take loans in order to start some of those things. Loans are good if they are used for productive areas. So go to your bankers, tell them their problem, and they will advise you on what to do. There are so many things to do. When you approach Madam Jemima, she will actually tell you one that, oh, well, maybe you can be a distributor of gem fabrics along where you live. At least you'll be making some reasonable income at the end of the day. And when you add it up, you realize that yes, now your lifestyle can be financed.
Thank you very much, Desmond. I guess there's no other questions. I don't see any hands up. If I might have missed someone, the floor is open for final comments. We are 2 minutes behind time. So closing remarks. Thank you very much, Desmond, for honoring our invitation. You've really enlightened us about what a budget is and what the budgeting process is. You've also made us understand that even as individuals, we can budget. And when we budget, we need to put in a lot of discipline, because once you do the budget, you need to be disciplined, and you should also constantly evaluate it, or you can audit it to see whether you are deviating based on what you had planned. We really appreciate the efforts that you have put into this presentation. We look forward to having you back on this call. Perhaps you could tell us more about going for loans, because a lot of people are scared of bank loans. If you have any closing remarks from your side too, then we could wrap up.
First of all, I want to thank you, Jemima, for giving me the opportunity to lead a discussion in area which is so dear to me, budgeting. And I believe it has been an eye-opener for many. And I wish that we will be ambassadors. Those of us that have the benefit on this platform should be ambassadors to help our other colleagues on the issue of budgeting. Remember, like I said, budgeting is a plan for your financial resources. Without plan, you would manage to fail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Desmond. Thank you all for the opportunity. Just a gentle reminder, all these videos on our practical sessions are available on the Finance Gem YouTube channel. Just look for Finance Gem YouTube channel, subscribe, watch the past videos. I'll upload today's videos as well. Drop your comments as well. You can also follow our other social media platform on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and also for the WhatsApp. If you want to get the daily finance gems, you could also drop in your number. You get the daily tips as well. Something exciting coming this December. I know we are budgeting. Once we are done with budgeting, we are going to look at performance evaluation. So let's get ready. Our tips will start as usual on Monday. I wish you all the best and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Sorry, there was a question in the chat box, Jemima, and our group picture.
Yes. Please let's turn on our cameras as we take our
There's a
group
question.
pictures.
There was a question in the chat box.
Hey,
There was
Jemima.
a question in the chat box.
Yes. So let's see.
There's a question from Richard. If you want me to read, I can. There was a question from Richard in the chat box.
Okay, how
Says,
often do Doug, you can go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Thanks. How often do you evaluate the budget and how frequently? Desmond, if you could help us quickly with this.
Yes, you see, the fundamental principle is that the shorter the budget, the more frequent evaluation. So when it is within 12 months, then it means that at least every month or every quarter, you should evaluate your budget because you don't have too much time. But if it is a long-term budget, then you have a time of maybe a year or two to even do that. But in this case, it is a shorter budget within 12 months. And therefore, you need frequent this. It can be monthly, it can be weekly, depending on what sort of business you engage in. If it is a personal thing, then it means that even on daily basis, you should be monitoring because you don't have to spend outside what you budgeted to spend. So that one, it should be a conscious effort that on daily basis you are. But a business, it could be weekly, it could be monthly or quarterly.
Thanks, Desmond. I like the idea of daily. For me, my budget, I review it every day.
Yes.
A lot of things are happening. So I review my budget every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put on our camera as we take our group picture. Please,
Jamie, sorry, I think you should stop sharing your screen so that we'll be able to take the group picture.
okay. Let me know if it is okay. Please, the chat, the link to the YouTube channel is on the chat. Just click it and subscribe. Okay, so let's put on our camera. I can see the camera is coming on. Auntie Rosina. Kuku, good to see you.
Good to see you, Jemima.
Oh, it's been ages.
Well done, well done.
Thanks. I can see Grandma. Jessica Essel, it's been ages. Angie, I hope you are helping us with the camera. Oh, Mothers for Change. Thanks for
Yes,
the
I've taken one, but I can take some more. So let me keep on taking it. So please keep your cameras on. I'm taking a few more before.
Marina, thanks for bringing our ladies on board. Okay, I can see Dr. Edemaka. Welcome. I don't know if you could show your camera or you are in the consulting room. Thanks for making it.
Okay, I've taken a few, but maybe we can take a fun one. People can smile with a freestyle.
So you want that to take the freestyle.
Yeah.
This is how my December budget looks like.
Okay, so freestyle 1, 2, 3. Yay!
Thank you all. Let's get ready for performance evaluation. We are going to set our targets for next year. We've done our budgeting. We are coming to learn how to set our targets for 2022 so that we'll be well prepared for next year. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Thank you very much.
I can see Doug. Okay, Reginald. Rahel, thanks for coming on board. Marcel. Sophia, yeah. Jacob, as usual. Okay, Angie, I think at this stage you can stop the recording.
Okay, I'll do just that.
Okay, thanks.